Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP, and I wanted to talk about something my ISFJ friend remarked about me. We were talking about the future, and I was thinking like, well, I'm heading for being a general practice doctor, but maybe there's something else that I would want to be, but I'm not sure what it is. I just know that I could do well studying radiology, or I could become a skin doctor or a dermatologist, or I could do something completely different and not be in medicine. And I could live in Stockholm, or I could live in the town that I'm in now, or I could go back to the town that I was in before in the south of Sweden, or I could move to a new town. But that's like too many possibilities for my ISFJ friend. And he was like, just focus on one possibility, just one path. And I was like, well, yeah, but I mean, I need to think about other possibilities. I can't be stuck on one. And he's like, how do you even keep so many possibilities in your head? And that is kind of where INFPs and ISFJs differ, is that for me, I'm always keeping 10,000 possibilities in my head at the same time, certain of them contradictory to one another. That doesn't matter to me, but yes, it does get overwhelming. It does get overwhelming. My ISFJ friend was like, wow, I'm glad I don't live in your head. Because he said that is a lot. So he could tell why I was burnt out when I told him that, because he was like, he was like, you're going to go insane, you know. But that's the way I think. I don't really just commit to one thing. I have 10,000 ideas, and some of them are more likely than others, and some of them are just silly fantasies. But I do entertain a lot of possibilities at once, which he doesn't really do. He's only like that when it comes to, since this is inferior function, it's only when he's being a hypochondriac. As a medical student, we are more likely to be hypochondriac. But I think that if you're an ISFJ, you're also more likely to be hypochondriac, because you are so in tune with your SI, small variations inside your body. There's like, wow, my pinky is slightly numb today, like I must have cancer. That is the kind of thought process that a lot of SI dominants end up in. I see it also in my ISTJ dad, that he's like, but like for him, I think that it's more important that things make logical sense. I think the ISFJs are even more likely to come up with something ridiculous. So yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys about that. 2 seconds. Okay, I had to get my hot chocolate, so here it is. I also want to posit this crazy theory, okay, guys? My theory, okay, I've already done these controversial topics that some people may disagree, but I think that Emily Dickinson is an INFP, okay? I can see the reasons for INFJ, and I do see why people would think that she's an NI user. And we don't know much about her life. All we know is pretty much that she's a recluse and that she wrote a lot of letters, and she was kind of repressed, and that she never showed her work to anybody, but that she was very prolific and that she worked with symbols in her work. And yeah, so we have her work left. But she very much was a recluse. And a lot of people would say, okay, well, that's what an INFJ does. But if you look at her poems, you'll notice that it's a very NE way of thinking. I know that NI can seem like NE, like with the quirkiness and stuff. But one of her biggest poems, I Dwell in Possibility, a fairer house than Prose, more numerous the windows, superior for doors. I mean, I know Emily Dickinson by heart. She's like my biggest inspiration when it comes to writing poetry. I like the way that her free verse still obeys to certain rhythm patterns. I like that it's like she's telling us a story, and yet it's very deep. I like her symbolism, and I can understand the INFJ reading of her because she does have a language of symbols. But I think that INFPs does that too. It doesn't really point towards one or the other. I think that if she were an INFJ, she might have sought out more people. I think that she was pretty content to like be outside of life, and lived in fantasy, which is a little bit more of an INFP thing to do. I mean, she's like one of the icons of INFJ, according to many sources, but I don't know. It felt like I was the only person in my English class to actually understand Emily Dickinson. I had a really good teacher during the class, so that obviously contributed to it. But I remember I had a test where we were talking about there's a certain slant of light, winter afternoons, thou presses like the heft of cathedral tunes. And I felt that. Like, I know those wintry mornings, the sad, dreary light that comes in and that, like, feels heavy even though it's light, you know? And I can feel the feelings. And she talks a lot in details, you know? She's not trying to tell like a big meaning about the world. Like, she observes small things and she is quietly insightful about them. She does talk about big concepts. I mean, you could argue for INFP or INFJ with her. I think that people need to be a little bit open to the interpretation that she's an INFP, because they'll realize that their points for INFJ are not actually super solid. We'll never know what type she was, but I think that you could argue her either way. She does insert herself a lot in her poems. Like, it's from her point of view, all of these poems. It's not like she's talking about just, you know, she does talk about herself in the first person. She says, like, I heard a fly buzz when I died. You know, that's pretty deep into, like, the self. And yes, she talks a lot about death, but are only INFJs allowed to talk about death? I mean, like, I'm not making a very good argument for INFP, but I don't think that y'all are making, like, good arguments for INFJ. I think that a lot of the way that she talks is very NE. It might just be a very well-developed NI, but she's very NE. Like my poetry and my INFJ friends' poetry is very different. It's intuitive, but it's different. And like she talks about a bird came down the walk. He did not know I saw. And it's like, oh, a bird walked down the sidewalk, and she she talks about feelings and the heart and the head a lot. I don't know. I just feel like she's more of a whimsical figure than a wise one, Not that every INFP is whimsical and every INFJ is wise, but it just feels like she has this playful air. I don't see her very INFJ-like, but who knows? And she talks about, obviously she's an introvert. I mean, we know this. I'm nobody, who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell, they'd advertise, Oh, how dreary to tell one's name to an admiring bog. I'm paraphrasing. It's probably not exactly that. But I learned to love them by heart because they were so meaningful to me. And I know that's just because something is meaningful to me doesn't mean it's an INFP, but I don't know. I think that people should be open to that idea. I think that the way she writes is the way that I write, but it's because I took inspiration from her, I guess. But I think that she thinks the way I think, and it's weird to see. She is just very silly, I find. And she does talk a lot about like her feelings. Actually, Wild Nights is about her hidden desires and stuff. And she talks about hope a lot. Hope is a thing with feathers. She talks a lot about hope, a lot about death, obviously, but Because I Could Not Stop for Death is very much a story with herself in it. She's not really about making an impact, otherwise she would have actually done something about her poems, not buried them away. Obviously she could have been a very unhealthy version of an INFP or an INFJ, but why would she be? There's also the argument for INTP, where she would use any bows with TI, and I can take that too, but I do think that she's driven by feelings. I don't think that she's very much driven by logic. But who knows? Yeah, anyway, that was my case about my very, very lousy case for Emily Dickinson being an INFP. Also, I mean, this wasn't the only purpose of this video. This video is also to tell everybody about my love for Emily Dickinson. I just love her poems. She was before her time. She was a sensitive soul. I hope that she was happy, but I don't think so. But she had a beautiful mind. She really did. And I wish I could have met her. But she wouldn't have been meeting anybody, obviously, because she was a recluse. But I wish I could have written letters to her, okay? She's just, her poems, I could read any of her poems and I'd be happy, you know? It feels like home. So yeah, tell me what you guys think. Maybe you have another poet that you want to mention, or maybe you just like Emily Dickinson. Tell me what you guys think.